journalists was expected to get an authorization before going to the Intercontinental Hotel to cover the protest.
In journalism, well, in news gathering, there is what we usually refer to as hard news and soft news. I don't know if that's it. And that news which is breaking, that news which is for the interest of the people, you need nothing like an accreditation. If the head of state is to visit Canada English, and it's a special occasion for special motive, and then we need a press conference or something, you can begin to say that people should apply, you're accredited to come and cover. But news for the interest of the common man in the street, any journalist who is worth the salt should go in for that news. And that Swiss journalist has the right that President, more than the right that President Pobia has in Switzerland. He is a Swiss national. He has the right as a journalist protected by the laws there. He has a right to be protected by military of that country, more than President Pobia, who is a foreigner. So as a journalist, it's strange that you say that the journalists have a chip implanted on him for such.
No, I said it could be.
It could be. It can be. It's possible. But to say that where the protest was even going on, it's not even face to face with the president. The president was somewhere at the top stairs of Continental Hotel, and the protest was downstairs. People just rioting. You could protect the people. A senator is talking about civil behavior of the military. There's a way of protecting people without hurting them. And most times you see the way the military behave over there. They can barricade themselves, they can use some stakes and what they can do, all that.
Use shields.
Shields. On here we use buttons on your neck, on your spine. In Catalan, I keep quoting Catalan because that is in Catalan and Spain. We had, by the time we had the crisis in the northwest and the southwest region, these guys had
it's a similar situation.
Dominic, one person did not die. But on a single day, they protested more than 2,000 of them at a single. Not one person was injured. Whereas in Africa, somewhere in Cameroon, people were being sprayed with bullets. So what's wrong with our mindset as Africans? Do our institutions protect individuals or protect their citizens? When somebody becomes a leader, they just feel that they are gods. I think that is where the problem is. So, coming back to that question to just a minute, to say that journalists have the right to cover news as far as you are a journalist and you have what it takes to cover news anywhere.
Yes, time for FBC, equally a journalist. From what Prof mentioned there, perhaps the presidential guard were just being very cautious to make sure that the journalists don't carry something that can harm the president.
You know, we have to school these presidential guards because some of them have baked presidential guards in terms of academic portfolio. Those the presidency are supposed to have gone through some ethics of international relations, especially when you move constantly with the president out of the territorial boundary. In international relations, once you move into another country, the first thing I keep saying is that the security of yourself and the head of state immediately lies in the hands of the host country. Now, if these guards had gone to school, if these guards were schooled enough on international relations and their practices, they would have simply called in the police service, the police force. Well, because as Baku Ali said, at the period where the journalists came and the protest was outside, President Pobia was somewhere very up, top floor of the Intercontinental. It was not like somebody was coming in. Now, these security officers could behave the way they behave, provided President Pobia is beside them and someone is approaching them. Yeah. Well, like Prof said, maybe they scented danger. That one, it could be normal that you acted in self-defense because you scented danger. Maybe the time to call the police force, the Swiss police, to come in would have been too late. Yeah. But in this case where President Pobia was right up, the guys were some meters away from the Intercontinental Hotel. If these guys themselves had gone to the School of International Relations, it had been schooled at the presidency, they would have simply called the police there. You remember when the thing prolonged, the police, the Swiss police came. The water cannons and all the like was taken care of by the Swiss police. Therefore, you cannot take your security outside and come and implement your job of security in another person's land. These are simple ethics of international relations, which Prof has not been able to school those presidential guards. But Prof, you should school them because we are more educated than them.
Just 1 minute. Let me find out something. 1 minute. Are you saying that when a group of terrorists,
Oh my goodness.
that disturbs you,
No,
really?
no, go ahead, Prof.
Just as
explain
the regime has
that
told
point.
people to be using terrorists all the time.
No, wait, just,
Without knowing the meaning of
when
terrorism.
a group of terrorists invade your home, your wife should wait, and your child should wait until a policeman comes in, or they react in
The
self-defense.
circumstances are different, Prof.
No,
You are an
let
academician.
me just get
The circumstances are different.
I think we're getting all
Let's
in this case, let me just end
go
up.
ahead.
Let me end up. In this case, some set of international terrorists invaded
As used by your government all the time.
the hotel of the president, and if there was anything that the bodyguards had to do, it was to protect the head of state's interest first. Because you see a group of people that cannot be identified in the name of Cameroonians.
They have a pass from the Swiss
They have authority.
authority.
Their protest was authorized.
If they had an authority from the state to protest, why can't they come and protest in their country?
Prof, will you not use terrorism law put by your own parliament to put them in jail as you have been doing?
That's why
you obviously do that.
That's why the protectors, the bodyguards came out to protect the head of state.
This is most
By
unfortunate.
brutalizing the journalists.
Let me end here by saying this is really most unfortunate. Me sitting on a plateau and I'm hearing a professor calling his fellow Cameroonians terrorists who came to exercise their First Amendment God-given right. This is unbelievable. This is unacceptable. Let me finish. I think this is just unacceptable.
Prof,
With all due respect, Professor. With all due respect, Mr. Professor.
Prof, let's maintain some
With
calm.
all due respect, Mr. Professor, I think this is a unique opportunity for the Cameroonian government to train their men in uniform, especially when they're supposed to leave the Cameroonian soil and go somewhere else. They have to understand the rule of law. They have to understand where their boundaries are, and have to understand what their limitations are.
Into your house and attacks you.
Professor, let's move ahead. Let's talk about
self-defense as per se, Prof.
Self-defense.
Why they were compared to the head of state, there was no danger.
Time for Elvis. Prof, let's talk about why these people were protesting in Switzerland. One of the reasons is they say the president of the country is using taxpayers' money, huge sum of money to stay in the hotel while people are back here die in the country. What do you make about President Paul Biya's continuous visit to Switzerland, spending a lot of time and money in the intercontinental hotel?
I think we have some relationship with Switzerland, quite decent relationship. And if they are going there to talk on how that relationship can be improved for the betterment of people, I think it's better, of Cameroonians in particular. Because I think Cameroon has a lot to benefit from Switzerland. So if he goes there constantly, you need just to find out what have you brought back. And he has been bringing back a lot of things as far as I'm concerned.
Like?
Because he says, what do you say, like?
Yes, just to put an example, people out there watching should know what.
I don't think anybody in this country, whether we are 2 million, has ever come out to say, je m'engage.
AFRIK-CINEMA.
Go back into...
What is the term in English?
Maybe
People watching will understand.
If I wrote some of the things, say je m'engage.
Prof, maybe people will not have enough time to read that.
Good.
What does that mean in English? Yeah, what does that mean?
Pour continuer.
Just translate it so that those watching we know what you are saying.
So is there peace in Cameroon now, Prof?
This man is a joker.
Is there peace in Cameroon?
Prof,
he engages to bring peace. Can you go to Norwest and feel free? No. I cannot go.
Let me come back from you.
So there's no peace.
An
has failed in that engagement.
An investigative report made public by some, I'll come back to you, from journalists in Switzerland indicated that in 37 years, the president of the country has spent 4.5 years out of the country, most especially spending time in Switzerland in the Intercontinental Hotel using huge sum of money. What do you make about the sum the presidential delegation use every year in stay in the hotel?
You know, to be candid with you, one of the strange things we find on the African continent and in the world is that Cameroon is the only country that carries out its issues at the level of exceptions. The country that will take 2 months, 2 weeks to prepare elections, and will take a day, Alexis Bolin Department, to read election from morning till night. Reading. I mean, No country does that. This is the only country whereby when the head of state is going out, the delegation is alarming. Even those who borrow money to us have said our expenditure at the level of delegations that go out is alarming. This is surprising. Now, when we look at the preceding events here, we realize that when we look at expenditures, each time you ask yourself, do we have people suffering in the country or not? Yes. Do we have enough development to our satisfaction that we need to waste? Even America that has enough money does not waste budget in that manner. Therefore, you start asking yourself, is it normal to pick up an entire flat? There are times the head of state takes 1 month outside. This is abnormal in the world. Then a head of state leaves. Nigerian president went for health reasons. Stayed for about 2 weeks and additional days and was already on heat. On the point where they calling on for the vice president to take over, that it's unconstitutional in Nigeria for the head of state to be out for that number of time. In Cameroon, just as Prof keeps supporting, the head of state can be out for 6 months. On state bill, for God's sake. This is absurd. Any human being on earth now who tells you that for the suffering we have, there are no roads in Gelemunduka. South is enclave, east is enclave, Fulawa is another hell, and these billions of francs are spent on state visit. Now, Prof said he could have gone there to arrange bilateral relation. Do you arrange bilateral relation by taking weeks outside? If not the protest by the anti-state now, surely the other state as usual would have been out. We have had situation where they have been out for 1 month, 3 weeks, 2 weeks. Do you tell me 1 month, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks is only for bilateral relations? No. It means that some people said he's going on leave. Can he not, as other presidents do, take leave in their own country? Good. I was expecting a head of state who will take leave from Vomeka and move to Sabga, Sabi Ranch.
Thank you.
Sabi Ranch, for example, in Bafut, exactly. Or goes to Sabga, or goes to Waza, for example, to take a rest within his own country. Must we take rest only in Swiss hotel with a powerful delegation that is on state budget?
I think there's a motive.
This is where it becomes abnormal.
Yeah.
There's a motive for going to Switzerland, and that motive is financial. There's a financial mechanism which every time they go there, they transact, and that's why they keep going to that Switzerland. Because if you look at Africa's wealth, most of our leaders of Africa, their wealth usually are stored in Swiss banks. Most of the guys who are in Konenge, they had accounts, some of them had accounts in Swiss bank and American bank. So at the end of the day, we realize that they don't go there for fun. They go there for serious business. They go there where they must have gathered a lot of money from here. They go and keep, but for what reason?
Then they should keep their budget and not keeping a while spending state budget to stay there.
I think the fundamental question would
no,
have
Senator, let me find out from you. Some people look at the Swiss government as an accomplice to all this. They accept all this money from African countries to be, kept in their country. Are they not like partners in crime, perhaps? Some people will say.
Of course, to a certain extent, they're accepting African leaders to loot their countries and bury those money, keep those monies in their in foreign land, and it's most unfortunate. But I have a couple of questions. Was the president's visit a state visit, an official visit, or a private visit? Number one. Number two, some people say he went for health reasons. Cameroon has some of the best doctors in the world. One of the top doctors in the United States. Oh my goodness. Professor.
Please, somebody said. Professor, I will come back to you. You see
Professor,
what
Cameroon has some of the brightest, best and brightest, the best of the best doctors in the United States and probably also in Europe. Can we bring those guys home to create state-of-the-art healthcare services so that when you and I and our president has health issues, it can be taken care of right here in Cameroon? We chase away the best and brightest Cameroonians to go and excel in foreign lands.
Because they are unpatriotic.
Oh my goodness.
Senator, you wanted to say something? Perhaps you can still your point out, Senator.
The professor thinks that he's the only one who is patriotic because he's supposed to CPDM. No, and that is the problem in Cameroon.
That's why they kill the system.
That is the problem with Cameroon. You think you have a monopoly of knowledge. You think you have a monopoly of force. You think you have a monopoly of everything. Everyone can exercise their patriotism in their own little way.
Correct.
It's not how you think that I should be patriotic that makes you more patriotic than I am.
Senator, are you saying that?
We'll take a little break. When we come back, we'll start our second topic for this day.
Your country? You love your country?
Of course, I can contribute to my country in my own way.
U.S. congressional delegation visit Cameroon this week. 5 of them are talking about issues on how to resolve the Anglophone crisis and equally to provide humanitarian assistance to victims of the crisis in the 2 English-speaking regions of the country. They came in the absence of the president. They held talks with the prime minister, the minister delegate in charge of defense, Joseph Beti Asomo, the minister of territorial administration, Paul Achanga, and a host of others. They equally held talks with some refugees and internally displaced persons. Let me start with you, Professor Tita Samuel, president and chairman of the CPP party. The visit of the U.S. congressional delegation to Cameroon, how can this move towards resolving the crisis in Cameroon?
For one, I think I don't buy their visit. I don't buy it, in the sense that some of them are coming without even understanding the origin of the problems in Cameroon. Like my people will always say, oh, it originated from lawyers and teachers. I say, no, it's not that. It started as far back as the 1990s. Let me not even say 1990s, but late 80s. And I keep asking people, if they say, oh, people are dying in Bamenda, can you go to Bamenda today? What is happening in Bamenda here that did not happen in the 1990s and 2000? And if you are coming as whoever has come from America, who are you coming to meet here? The people who some sort of programmed those problems? Because the problems were programmed and targeting secession. As far back as the 1990s, that I know very well. I went to Senegal over the NCNC matter. I went to the Gambia over the NCNC matter. But now when they say teacher and lawyers, I now ask myself, when we were going to the Gambia and the Senegal, where were teachers and lawyers? Were they involved there? There were people who wanted cessation. And is America coming now to say the cessation should be given or should not be given? Because that's the bone of contention. Whether people believe it or not. And that's why I keep telling people that Cameroon has been sold out for a pound of flesh. And the pound of flesh belongs to Cameroon. Cameroon must protect it at all costs. They can say, oh, it's teachers, marginalization, but I know that the real thing is from secession. And secession came up as far back as Ambazonia, that started, I think, 1983. If I know the story very well. And I want to tell you briefly, I should tell you briefly that whatever they have come for, the truth will not still come out. Because the people who are fermenting the problem or the problems are with them there in America. They are not even here. Then you just find our children in bushes that are suffering for nothing because they were misled. And how were they misled? They were told that tomorrow you are going to have your state. We don't go away. Yes. But this question I asked many years back. How are we going to go?
All right. Time for Elvis. The U.S. congressional delegation to Yaoundé, they have been talking about inclusive dialogue. This is not the first time we had such calls. What impact can it really have?
Well, there is an impact it will have and it must have, whether we like it or we don't like it. Now, while answering your question, I just wanted to get cue in from where Professor ended. First, the errors of when the crisis started, or it's not in the early 80s or so. It's far back in the colonial days. I'm sorry to say that. I don't want to get into it because it's a history we have been repeating over and over. Surely Prof will need to contact his history books to get the facts as a Cameroonian, if at all he's a real Cameroonian. Now, another point we have to cue on or to continue from there is equally on the fact that Prof says he is not into it because, you know, he's not even in line with it because they don't know the real thing. Now, the only thing I will be able to tell Prof, as somebody who is always keen at studying international relations and international politics, is that America is one of the highest states in terms of intelligence in the world, that it can get information at their backyard. We have non-governmental organizations that are being sponsored by America, and they act as a channel for information gathering. all those organizations in the Northwest, Southwest that have fundings through US aid, directly or indirectly, equally channel their reports, which gets to the United States as we speak at all times. Now, when Tubonagi was over there and talking about Amber Boys, nobody could imagine him in his communique before coming talking about Amber Boys. And so when they come, they have their channel of information. People have been very bitter as to why they have not gone down. But I've told people that international politics, you don't necessarily need to get to the ground. Because when America stopped in Yaoundé, before stopping, they are ground facts-finding issues that they get through various channels. I don't want to be mentioning here because we might be taking a lot of time when others have to talk. There's a whole lecture on its own on how international communication flows, interstate communication flows. And so in that case, I'm just letting Prof know that they know the information, they know what is happening, more than even Prof, who has refused to understand his history very well. But then, away from that, we have to understand that impact will be created. And as I said, people have wanted, for example, US or other foreign powers or European Union to act faster than the way they thought. Now, international politics does not function the way we think. International politics, under what we call dialogue, under what we call conflict resolutions, has channels that it takes. There are what we call lobbying phase of it, where they move to you first on the background, then on the face to face, where they have channels of lobbying. What the US is doing is lobbying, which means they make you to understand the gravity of what we are doing and calling you to reason. Now, it will take those phases where they keep recording. Remember, we have the Netherlands organization in Boya already. We have Swiss organization on the ground in Boya already. We have United Nations agency on the ground in Boya as I speak now, who are currently assisting the government in the relief process. Now, in the course of doing this, they always gather information along the line. Because when they go to carry out their relief projects, they also make sure they gather information along the line, which they send to their home governments. And this acts as information gathering, which they need not to get to Boya, they need not to go to Moyoka, they need not to be in Manfred, but the information is apt. So when they end in Yaoundé, it's another time for the government, because the way Prof talks, as the government keeps lying in Yaoundé, thinking that they are not going down the field, the government forgets that they have all this information, which when they compare the information you give to them in Yaoundé and the one they gather on the field, they work it out. That's what they use in carrying out any move. And that move, when it gets to the face of sanctions when they come, is based on what they have gathered in relation to what you gave them as first hand. So that when they compare and discover you have found one thing, before you know it, sanctions start coming, which we don't pray to get to that level, as Senator rightly said. We should not think that we are more patriotic than the others. Senator
Nana, you are just coming from US. You give us enough information of the implication of a congressional delegation coming to Cameroon. But let me find out from Jude, do you have any problem with the fact that the delegation did not go to the Northwest and Southwest?
I do, and I've always stood by that all along. I know that it's true that they might have some diplomatic gymnastics they're doing. But, you know, in such a crisis moment, we expect that we take measures that will avert suspicions and exacerbate the situation on the ground. Because each time you don't go, we have these diplomats coming here, and each time they don't go down on the field, the other party always feel that there's some kind of impartiality that's been done somewhere. The other party usually feels that you've listened to the other person, but you've not been able to come down to the field and listen to, even though you have the report, but you cannot fly from America, come right over to Cameroon, and this time that is just about 30 minutes from Simaleng or from Douala airport here to Bafut airport, about 30 minutes. You say because of security, how do people over there live? You say, so we've had a couple of these top profile officials come. Guterres has been here, Patricia Scotland has been here, Tibonagi has been here, even Peter Ballerin, who's the ambassador. All these things we know, like Fa was trying to highlight, the facts, the tones and facts. And they have people like Kongo Bala, who in fact, I'm sure he's still in Canada as we speak. You have people, NGOs that go over there, they deliberate this thing in parliaments over there, even though we don't do it here. We have platforms where these people are aware. America, like Fa says, has all this intelligence. But there's a little negligence when it comes to the lives of the people here on ground zero. I'm talking about those in the Northwest and the Southwest. Because the process, they are engaging their diplomatic process at their own team, true, but it is working totally to the detriment of the millions of people who are living in the Anglophone soil. So they need to speed up the process. I was expecting that Karim Bass will leave from America, rather, instead of coming to Cameroon, go over to Switzerland, where we hear that talks about breaking up, go over there, pick the guys who are needed for this talk, because we've had many of our diplomats here already. Pick them, let's come together and find out what's the problem. How do we speed up the dialogue process? That would have done us more benefit than coming again for a fact-finding mission when we have too many facts just to give. The genocide is real over there in the Northwest.
Senator Nana, thank God we have you here on the panel to tell us what does it mean for a U.S. congressional delegation to move to a particular country because of an issue?
Well, on a fact-finding mission. They actually want to know what is happening in Cameroon. This delegation that was headed by Karen Bass, she is a congresswoman from LA, California, and you have to understand the genesis of her visit. There's a lot of lobbying going behind the scene. I understand some people are saying, why didn't she go to Norwest and Southwest? Well, the official or diplomatic language is, you cannot guarantee our security if we go to Norwest and Southwest. And it's true. The Cameroon military could not and cannot guarantee their security. Could the guys, the Amber Boys fighting, they also guarantee their security? Absolutely no.
They called for a ceasefire too.
No, that's baloney. When I heard from Chris Anu himself, he said that I listened to one of his videos that they did not call for any ceasefire. So the question is, can you guarantee the safety of those U.S. congressmen and women that came to Cameroon? If the answer is no, then it's safe to stay in Yaoundé and get as much facts as possible. But more importantly, why did they come? The international community is wondering in what direction Cameroon is going. The Cameroon government has been saying that the separatists are not willing to talk. They're not willing to negotiate. They don't want to come to the table and talk. On the other hand, the separatists are saying the Cameroon military or the Cameroon is creating genocide. And if you have listened, last year, Senator Van Hollen wrote a memo to the Undersecretary of State that he should pay particular attention to the increased violence that is happening in Cameroon. And the situation has deteriorated significantly. When you hear the U.S. Senate, and okay, even when you hear, as we speak, the Undersecretary of the United States, Peter Nago, he's currently in Europe negotiating for his support to the pre-talk that is currently taking place, that took place in Swiss, and they're trying to continue with the negotiations. But you have to also understand where they're coming from. The U.S. position, the U.S. policy is very clear. The U.S. policy, U.S. foreign policy on Africa and in Cameroon in particular, is to advocate for democracy and not for separation. They are strongly behind the scenes pushing for some form of federation, which is a little bit, which is significantly at odds to where the Ambazonians and the separatists are, right? They want full independence. And but the solution the United States is proposing, if some of you remember, I was here a year ago and 2 years ago. I went and met the Prime Minister and even the President. I suggested almost the same things. Go for it. We go back to a 1961 Constitution.
Just 1 minute.
Look at the similarities between the 1961 Constitution and the 1996 Constitution, which the Francophones or La République du Cameroun wants to begin all these conversations from. And from there now we can say what are the issues, and the issues are twofold. We have an issue of national unity, and that is the issue of Anglophones and West Cameroon and East Cameroon coming together. That's the issue of national unity, because a lot of people get these things confused, especially our Francophone brothers. When you want to talk, they say the same problem in Banana, the same problem they see in Ukadima. No. The issues you see in Bafoussam or you see in Ngomoduga, those are issues of national integration.
1 minute.
So you have 2 or 3 schools of thoughts. I'll just end by showing you how difficult and how complex the issues are. So you have Britain, for example. Britain has not, even up to now, they're lobbying them to support the pre-talk, because Britain is not in favor of a federated state. They are still in their position that they've had all along for a unitary state. Yeah. But the only workable solution that lots of people see is the federated state. On the other hand, There are other countries behind the scenes now, like Portugal. When he leaves England, he's going to Lisbon, to Portugal, to help that. Because right now we're having something called pre-talk. And I'm also pleased that at least a year ago, 2 years ago, we had pleaded with the government to begin to talk. And they refused. But now with the international pressure and the situations on the field, they are open to some sort of negotiations. But that may be. All options should be on the table. If somebody has an idea that they want secession, that's not an issue. Yeah. I don't think they will win. But you cannot tell someone coming to a negotiation that this thing is off, this particular point of view is off the table. It can be just the beginning of a negotiation. I've always believed that this issue of separation, issue of secession was the beginning of negotiation. But the bottom line is, the Anglophone region, they want greater autonomy. That was what was discussed, that was what was negotiated in Finland. Unfortunately, John Gu Foncha was outsmarted by the French and by Ayinjo. Where we find ourselves now that none of the issues that we agreed, even after the meeting, a week after I read the French intelligence report, the Anglophones and the Francophones and Ayinjo could not agree on the documents that they just signed. In Ayinjo, it was a provisional transition of the Anglophones into an assimilation with the Francophones. Yeah. Meanwhile, on the Anglophones, they saw a bigger country, a bigger opportunity, but they will keep their identity.
Okay. Professor, let me find out from you, from what Senator is talking there. It's like the international community wants the government to talk with the separatists. Do you think the government of Cameroon is ready now to talk?
Okay, to start, let me first of all get back to what the senator was saying. He fails to understand, or we fail to understand, that a lot of things have been hidden from our children. A lot of facts have been hidden from our children. My friend there talked about my history, that I've forgotten my history, but I think there is some history that I think I know that maybe he too he will want to learn.
Yeah. Oral history.
That would be good. That would be good. You know that after Fuman, that was a federation. But after Fumban came national integration. And we all accepted the policy of national integration that was mapped out by Ayinjo. If I can remember.
On what platform? Did we all?
Hold on. I said all of us, all Cameroonians rejoice over national integration. Have you read that part of national
Just it was not true point. So that just explain briefly so that we move ahead.
So that national integration actually buried federation.
So that's a double dealing. That's a crooked deal.
As it buried the federation, to my understanding, I still put it, to my understanding, because what I'm saying, I put myself first, because I was there, and I have some good ideas. To my understanding, that is how the single star came up.
Yeah, but in violation of our constitution, Professor, what are you talking about?
Was not
in clear violation of Article 47.3 for the 1 point, it clearly states that any attempt to temper with the federal state was unacceptable, was unreceivable.
Any section of the law, if my little law that I read in the university too is still in my head, any section of the law that remains silent for too long is dead.
What's he talking about?
So that section you are talking about, and once it is dead, it is revived by another law.
Let's come back to the question I asked you. Is the government of Cameroon, the government, you are the founder and the leader of the Cameroon People's Party. You work closely with the CPDM party, so you are an allied party to the CPDM. Is the government now ready to talk to end the Anglophone crisis?
The government was asked long ago by African Union to dialogue. The government, Paul Biya in particular, that I remember, handed the matter to Amadou Ali. But the southern Cameroonians that is NC, that I know much about them, and I know some of the people, even though the Manfred work can become of now. Later, I don't know how I came into it. Yoke. But I know that our fellows were already working on the program which was being programmed for them by secessionists abroad.
Oh my goodness.
It's a strong allegation you are making there.
And
a really strong allegation.
Allow me end up. It could be, I say it's mine. You have the right to challenge me in any form about what is mine, what I hold in mind, because I was there. And that is why you see that in the 1980s, this real hot fire started from the oil in Limbe. It did not start from people saying that, oh, we're being marginalized, from the oil in Limbe. And that is why I will not say what transpired, but I remember that I usually had to call Wally Penja to come up to Yaoundé.
Because of time, you have not answered my question. If the government is ready to start peace talks now,
the government is ready.
Okay,
but, let me end up. The government
briefly
is ready, but who are the people to negotiate with?
Oh my goodness.
Is that a quick Mbaku? Let's pick up from there.
Is that
still a question today? Is that still a valid question today from what we have?
That is totally invalid. I don't think at this stage of the crisis somebody should be thinking back in 2016. Prof needs to really think.
Are you saying that you can just gather any group of
terrorists
negotiate?
It's not about gathering.
Or representatives of the terrorists?
Let's allow Mbaku to explain this point.
We have these people who call the shots. They are in the diaspora. We know them.
Doing what then?
They cannot do what.
No, answer my question. I asked the questions here. Give
the professor seems to be interrupting everybody.
Yes,
So
don't interrupt.
So we're trying to ask if he's worried on the
people to negotiate with
it. We have people. We even had Siseko Julius Tabe
in Yaoundé.
In Yaoundé, but because we're slow in the process. The confusion that came in with the Ambazonian guys, and then they had to do what they are doing now to come up with many factions. And the very funny thing is that as the government keeps wasting time, the urge too for freedom keeps increasing, and more factions too. Suspicion comes in too. So people keep suspecting that there's foul play somewhere. More factions keep coming up, but we can quickly arrest this situation if we solve the issue too quickly. That's why I earlier opined that BAS would have gone or maybe get all these guys, all these factions on the table. That we want one option. I'm sure in Switzerland that's what they're going to do. Pick all these people from this ANC, this Bo Herbert, Siseko, Chris, and all of them. Bring them on the table. Let them choose what their agenda is, and that's what I think they are trying to do. Then they'll be able to sit on the table.
In a related development, let's talk about the kidnap and subsequent release of the chairman of the Social Democratic Front, John Funde, is still very much connected to the Anglophone crisis. A time for Elvis, let me find out from you. After the release of Chairman John Funde, I've been talking about what we discussed with the separate leaders or the fighters. At gunpoint, they told him to ask all SDF representatives from the Council, National Assembly, and the Senate to resign. How do you look at such a position that says is going to advance the cause for the restoration of Ambazonian statehood?
Well, my point here is that on the aspect of the parliamentarians or senators to resign, it will have very little or no impact, for the simple reason that you have other parties that are represented as oppositions. For example, you have MRC, they have a parliamentarian there, and equally you have UDC and Amunda Mjoya who are equally present. So if SDF decides to come out, they will have it in mind that at the end of it, they still have opposition in the parliament. So it doesn't hold well. But while going on to that, I am one of the very few Cameroonians who still finds John Funde's adoption to be very, very controversial. I'm very sorry to say that. Very controversial in the fact, not on the information John is giving, I don't have a problem with the information he's giving, but the fact of the master planners of that abduction. Because if you see it coinciding with the staging in Switzerland, which actually diverted attention, if you look at it critically, no full group, forget about what they said, Tabam Avo said. Tabam Avo gave a video, but was not very convinced that they did the abduction. Now, in the other abductions of John Funde, you will get groups coming up to say we did it. Now, that's why I say that, because of time factor, the adoption of John Funde is still controversial to me now, because to me it was masterminded by a hidden hand. And therefore, the fact that this group, because everybody says it's Ambazonian, which I am not over refusing, but I'm saying that the facts on the ground are still very shaky to me to say that fully 100% I could believe as Amazonian. I still have full doubts, I repeat, behind abortion, because when the issue happens, none of them have come out to say they did it. On the other hand, they have been at the crossroad of doubting who might have done that or which group might have done that. That's why when I said that at the end of the issue, I said the simple thing for us to do is for us to probably call on me, John, to call on the state to give him full assurance of security. Policemen should guard him, so that we know that he is now fully in the hands of, if not, even the state itself, for example, could be suspected. You get the point. Because we're in a situation whereby the fighters are suspected, the state is suspected, and no, you don't know who to trust. So at the end of it, we think that New John Funde should now be under full protection of the state, so that when anything that happens to him, the state now will be able to answer while we keep on seeking for peace as expected. Well, but it is controversial, I repeat. Very controversial.
That is an option, yes. Senator, this is the second time New John Funde has been adopted by separatist fighters. He is the only political leader that have been taken twice since the beginning of this conflict. What meaning do you read of this?
Well, I am almost close to his position with regards to John Funde. This is the second time within 2 months that's been adopted. But more importantly, though, I draw my facts and my conclusion based on John Funde's own statements. That he was adopted and the people took pictures of it. He took pictures with those guys who adopted him. Now, when you kidnap somebody and you're taking pictures with the person you kidnapped, you must love that person that you kidnapped to be taking pictures with him. Because if you kidnap an enemy, you will not be taking pictures with that enemy. So it definitely tells me, and this is very important, it definitely tells me that a significant portion of those people who kidnapped him were former members, former militants of the SDF, who disagree with the position of the party. And they come from time to time to take their chairman to go and tell him we do not like the direction which you're going. The party leadership says they want federation. But where does his constituency want to be? Where do the majority people in the Northwest and Southwest, which is the SDF constituency, want to be? So John Funde is at loggerheads with his constituency. And I can guarantee you 500%, this is not the last time he will be picked up. Because if once he takes positions that his former militants or still current militants, because most of those guys who are now AMBA members were SDF sympathizers. They disagree with him, they'll come and pick him up.
We can be very sure about that.
But more importantly though, for me is, after 3 years of the Anglophone crisis, the SDF is unable to articulate a sensible position where they stand on the Anglophone crisis is more than discouraging.
I think the Social Democratic Front wants federalism. They have stated that on several occasions at the National Assembly. How do you look at the position of the SDF towards fighting to resolve this cause? We have seen them at the National Assembly wanting to let the matter discuss, but your friendly party, the CPDM, have always turned down the discussion of the Anglophone crisis at the Parliament. What do you make of this?
You want me to say something from my understanding, and I will keep telling you that this is actually a situation where some children turn to be abnormal, running a little bit insane, wayward. Let me better use a softer word, wayward. And if the child is running wayward, you prune that child. I don't think to see that there should be a question of saying that they should go to the Parliament and pass a law on it, or what? I talked here about the situation of national integration, which says the nation, after that national integration policy, the nation becomes one and indivisible. And it has been like that for many years.
Do you think this, Senator, let's find out from you. Do you think it's needless to discuss this issue at the level of the Parliament?
I don't think this is what they're going to discuss there.
That's the prof's point of view. It's okay.
No, it's his point of view.
I mean, you cannot.
Maybe you explain why it's not necessary, perhaps.
Are they going to say that it's right for some children or for part of the country to become wayward? Or what are they going to discuss in the Parliament? The country is one and indivisible. since Ahijo and Ahijo handed over to Paul Biya, this is a thing we should understand.
Let me jump in here for 2 seconds, please. I would like to remind the professor that the first federal constitution of Cameroon never had that one and indivisible part of it. We want one nation, but you should be very careful when you use that one and indivisible. That was part of the Franco of the La République term, and it was not on the federal constitution. Yeah. And Anglophones want to go back to the 1961.
The federal constitution.
We're running out of time.
But more importantly, Professor, just please. One more second, and then I'll let the professor go. Very briefly. I feel disappointed and even angry that 2 children out of 10 are screaming and saying things are not working right, and you don't see any reason for the parliament to discuss why 2 out of 10 are kicking and screaming. It's very abnormal.
Let's Mbako. We have seen the Social Democratic Front parliamentarians wanting this issue to be discussed. We find no reason why Nijon Fundi will be arrested, and the Amba boys are asking him to get them resign from the parliament. Is that logical?
Whatever the case, I don't buy the fact that he was first of all taken for any reason, whether by Amba boy or by Cameroon state military conspiring to do what. Nijon Fundi is a statesman. He has done a lot. You should respect him, respect the work he has done for this nation and for the Anglophones. But the fact that CPTM MPs in the parliament who are of Anglophone extraction, do not open their mouths to join the SDF to say that let us fight for our constituent, it makes them really sick in the head, because I don't know what they are doing in that parliament. We cannot say we have a parliament and we can solve our own issues as Cameroonians, then we don't solve in the parliament, we leave Canada solve in their parliament, we leave America.
It is terrible, Joe. You are very correct.
It's appalling. So I feel that Cameroonians and their system of their legislative system is sick in the head.
Thank you so much, Jude Mbako for coming, a journalist and equally an advocate for school resumption in the North and Southwest. Thank you so much, Jude, for coming.
Anytime.
Professor Tita Samuel, founding president of the Cameroon People's Party, CPP. Thank you for coming, sir.
Please, next time call us and give us enough time.
Sure. We'll have enough time to talk about these issues. They are still running issues. Time for Evis. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. As Parliament and Senate ends without discussing the Anglophone crisis means that they don't mean good for us. And I personally, I disown all of them.
Senator, thank you for coming.
It's always a pleasure, and I think Cameroon will find its way, will come to a solution. Let's just keep our minds open for a negotiated solution, and I think and also remember that there are Cameroonians who can help us resolve this issue. We don't absolutely need foreign support, but there are Cameroonians that are good enough that can help mediate this crisis.
Thank you so much. All the time we can always invite you guys to come and discuss issues happening in the country. We thank our technicians for doing a great job there. If you miss out anything in this very edition, watch the Red Broadcast Sunday from 11:30. I am Dominic Memengwa Kimo. Nice weekend.